A sales team walked into work on June 10th and found their tablets bricked. Every device on the same local account setup, device encryption supposedly toggled off in settings. Every one of them demanding a 48-digit recovery key that did not exist, because these machines were never linked to a Microsoft account. Microsoft support confirmed it. There was no recovery path. Several drives were wiped completely. The culprit was an update that installed itself automatically the night before. An update that patched more than 200 security vulnerabilities and, while doing so, created a catastrophe it still has not fully explained. That update was KB5094.126, released June 9, 2026. And 7 weeks later, the most serious damage it caused has never appeared on a single Microsoft known issues page. This is the story of what got fixed, what got buried, and what Microsoft quietly pretended never happened. KB5094.126 went out on June 9th as a mandatory automatic update carrying patches for more than 200 security vulnerabilities, including 5 zero-day bugs that were already being actively exploited in the wild. Windows 10 users on extended security updates got a parallel release the same day. Neither waited for your permission. The update was important. It was also going to install whether you were ready or not. That is the thread that runs through everything else. The first thing Microsoft acknowledged was the least damaging problem it introduced. After installing the June update, anyone who tried to permanently delete a single file from the recycle bin found something strange in the confirmation dialog. Instead of seeing the actual file name, Windows showed an internal identifier, something like $R followed by random characters and the file extension. The file itself was fine. Deleting it still deleted the right thing. Restoring it still worked. The recycle bin view showed the correct name. Only the confirmation dialog was broken. Microsoft confirmed this on June 18th. The affected list was essentially every supported version of Windows that exists: Windows 11 26H1, 25H2, 24H2, 23H2, Windows 10 22H2, multiple LC versions, and Windows Server 2025, 2022, 2019, 2016, 2012 R2, and 2012. Every platform, one cosmetic bug. The fix arrived on July 14th with KB50999414 and later builds. Microsoft stated that organizations on July 14th builds or later did not need a known issue rollback or a special group policy workaround. Elapsed time from confirmation to fix, roughly 4 weeks. That is the item Microsoft handled most cleanly in the entire June cycle. Hold on to that thought. The second confirmed problem was less cosmetic and harder to explain to the people it hit. Line of business applications in dental offices, accounting firms, and medical practices suddenly lost the ability to open Microsoft Office documents through their own software. The applications themselves still launched. Word still opened documents directly. But the mechanism those applications relied on to automate Office in the background, a decades-old Windows interface called OL automation, had been silently broken by the June update. Specific software confirmed as affected included Dentrix and SoftDent, used in dental practices for patient charting that integrates with Word. CC ProSystem FX, the accounting platform. Neurology reporting tools, any software that triggered Office in the background through what developers call the iDispatch invoke method, found that method failing after June 9th, sometimes with an error message, sometimes with no indication anything had gone wrong at all. Microsoft acknowledged the Office automation breakage on June 16th. The fix arrived in July, bundled into both the Windows 11 and Windows 10 July Patch Tuesday updates. One confirmed fix, one confirmed acknowledgement. The people whose software stopped working on June 9th had to wait 5 weeks. Now we get into a territory where Microsoft's behavior starts to look different. When the June update reached domain joined PCs running Windows 11, the OneDrive shortcut in File Explorer's sidebar simply stopped working. Clicking it returned blank results. The OneDrive service itself was still running, web access still worked. But the integrated file management experience that Microsoft has spent years promoting as a reason to stay in its ecosystem was gone from the sidebar on affected enterprise machines. The specific trigger turned out to involve group policy and user account control, conditions that exist on exactly the kind of professionally managed machines where administrators expect updates to be tested before deployment. Microsoft never formally acknowledged this variant. What July fixed, specifically, was a narrower version of the same problem, the case where the OneDrive shortcut stopped working when File Explorer was run in administrator mode. That is a real fix. It is also not the same as the domain-joined group policy variant that administrators spent weeks working around. That case, to this day, has no resolution statement in any Microsoft documentation. If your Windows 11 machine has been getting slower over recent months, if you have noticed that Settings shows your system files consuming an alarming amount of storage, if your C drive has been filling up without explanation, there is a chance a hidden file has been growing in a protected folder on your machine since sometime in the late winter or early spring of this year. The folder is c:\programdata\Microsoft\Windows\Capability Access Manager. The file inside is called Capability Access Manager.db-wall. It is a write-ahead log, a type of temporary file that the Windows Capability Access Manager uses to track which applications have requested access to your camera, microphone, location data, and screen capture. Under normal circumstances, it should be a few megabytes. On affected machines, users reported sizes of 70 gigabytes, 110 gigabytes, 200 gigabytes, 513 gigabytes. The file is hidden by default. Windows protects the folder. Most users had no idea it existed. They just knew their drive was full. Here is the timeline. Microsoft's support team privately confirmed this as a known issue on May 13, 2026, in response to a support case opened by an administrator named Alan, who documented it publicly. Microsoft told him internally that the product team was working on a permanent fix expected in late June or early July. That private confirmation never appeared on the Windows Release Health dashboard. The Known Issues page for Windows 11 25H2 listed 2 items during this period, a GIF panel problem and the recycle bin file name glitch. A bug capable of filling an entire storage drive with invisible system files was not listed anywhere the public could find it. On June 29th, Microsoft quietly added one line to the changelog for the optional preview update KB5095093. It improves disk space usage for the Capability Access Manager.db-wall file. No explanation of what caused it. No disclosure of which update introduced it. No statement of how many devices were affected. One sentence describing the fix for a bug that had been silently destroying storage on Windows 11 machines since a February or March update, privately confirmed internally since May, and never once acknowledged publicly until it was already corrected. If you have July 14th installed, the fix is in. If your drive is already full, the update stops further growth, but the space that was already consumed does not automatically return. You would need to clean the oversized file separately. Microsoft never explained why this one stayed off the dashboard. Now the part that matters most. On June 10th, system administrators began reporting that machines had failed to boot after installing KB5094126. The failure was not a minor inconvenience. It was a black screen with the error code 0xC0430001, or a BitLocker recovery screen demanding the 48-digit key, arriving before Windows could load at all. The machines showing up most consistently in these reports were enterprise laptops. The HP EliteBook 8 40G10, the HP ProBook 4 60G11, the HP EliteBook 8 60G10, the HP ZBook, the HP Engage 1 Pro, Dell Precision systems including the 7530. The technical cause was identified by administrators, not by Microsoft. The June update pushed new secure boot certificates as part of an ongoing industry-wide certificate transition. On machines with older firmware that had not been updated to trust the new certificate chain, the signed Windows Boot Manager was rejected, and boot stopped entirely. On HP hardware specifically, a second factor compounded the problem. HP stores firmware recovery files inside the EFI system partition. the small partition that sits before Windows on the drive and manages the boot process. Many business laptops ship with a legacy 100 megabyte EFI partition. The June update needed to write new boot files to that partition. On machines where there was no space left, the write failed mid-process, leaving the boot configuration half-written and the machine unable to start. For users with recovery keys backed up to Active Directory or Azure AD, the path forward was painful, but possible. Enter the key, update the BIOS, reinstall the update. For users on local accounts with no key escrowed and no Microsoft account attached, there was no path. Microsoft support confirmed it directly. Microsoft cannot retrieve, provide, or recreate a lost BitLocker recovery key. Several of those machines were wiped. Microsoft never published an acknowledgement of this on the Windows Release Health Known Issues page for KB5-094126. The recycle bin bug appeared there. The boot failures, the bricked local account machines, did not. It is worth stating what that means precisely. Administrators whose machines were failing had no official Microsoft confirmation that the problem was known, no official workaround, and no update to tell them a fix was coming. They found it in Reddit threads and community forums and repair guides written by independent IT professionals. Microsoft's own documentation was silent. Now look at what happened 6 weeks later. On July 14th, Microsoft released KB5101650, the July 2026 Patch Tuesday update, bringing Windows 11 25H2 to build 26200.8875 and 24H2 to build 26100.8875. The scale of this release was genuinely remarkable. Action 1, a security research firm, counted 570 vulnerabilities fixed in this single update. For comparison, the same month in 2025 saw 137 fixes. Microsoft attributed the increase to artificial intelligence being used in security research, warning that customers should expect Patch Tuesday updates to keep growing. But within days of that release, Microsoft identified a problem. A subset of Dell laptops equipped with an Intel driver called the Innovation Platform Framework Processor Participant began experiencing unexpected shutdowns after installing the July update. Overheating, excessive battery drain, degraded performance. The cause was a conflict between the new Windows USB-C Connection Manager interface and the Intel driver responsible for managing power and thermal behavior. Affected machines would show a yellow exclamation mark in Device Manager next to that driver. Microsoft responded by placing a safeguard hold on the July update for affected Dell hardware, blocking it from reaching those machines through Windows Update before most of them even received it. Then, on July 18th, Microsoft released an out-of-band emergency update, KB5121767, for Windows 11 25H2 and 24H2. Bringing those builds to 26200.8894 and 26100.8894. A separate update, KB5121768, covered Windows 11 Enterprise LTSEC 2024. Time from problem identification to fix delivery, 3 days. Microsoft has noted, with some justification, that most affected Dell machines never actually encountered the problem. The safeguard hold stopped the update before it arrived. The only machines that suffered were those where a user had manually sideloaded the July release or had installed June's optional preview update, which contained the same change. That is 3 days. Safeguard hold, out-of-band patch, done. Hold that next to the June boot failures, which arrived on June 10th, and as of today have no acknowledged entry in Microsoft's known issues documentation, no dedicated out-of-band fix, and no official timeline for resolution. The only difference between the two situations that the public record can confirm is that the Dell problems surfaced in reporting that Microsoft could not ignore, and the HP and local account failures surfaced in administrator forums and support tickets that Microsoft chose not to acknowledge publicly. A company that can detect a thermal problem on Dell laptops and ship a targeted fix in 72 hours is not a company that lacks the technical capacity to respond quickly. It is a company that decides on a case-by-case basis which problems rise to the level of a formal acknowledgement. The Dell situation was containable. Microsoft contained it. The June boot failures were concentrated on enterprise hardware running older firmware in organizations without a Microsoft account. The kind of users who are harder to track in telemetry and quieter in the press. Those machines were not contained. They were wiped, and the known issues page stayed clean. Before we go, there is one thing you should check right now, regardless of whether you experienced any visible problems in June. Go to Settings, then Storage. Then click Show More Categories. Look at the figure next to System and Reserved. If it shows your system files consuming more than 20 or 30 gigabytes and you cannot account for what is in there, there is a chance the Capability Access Manager file was growing on your machine. The July update should have stopped the growth. But if you installed July and your drive space has not come back, you may need to manually address what accumulated before the fix arrived. The 48-character recovery key prompt is easy to miss until you cannot boot. The storage drain is easy to miss until the drive is full. Both were introduced by a mandatory automatic update. Both had fixes or acknowledgements delayed by weeks, or, in one case, never delivered at all. The question is not whether Microsoft will do this again. The question is whether you know where your recovery key is before the next time it does. If you do not know the answer to that question, drop it in the comments. And if you want to understand what is happening to your machine each time one of these updates lands, subscribe because we cover every one.